So another piece that I use a lot is a man by, his name's Dr. David Hawkins. He was the most,
This is one of his books.
yeah, which one's that one?
Reality.
That's pretty, those are pretty books.
Yeah, Power versus Force is the main.
Yeah, Power versus
book.
Force is his first book that I read. So what David Hawkins, he was the leading psychiatrist in New York City, had the largest practice in New York City for a number of years. But he is also he had other dimensions besides just the psychological. He's very spiritual. And what he wanted to do was figure out, how do we understand consciousness, states of consciousness? And he started to develop a way of processing, how do we know what state of consciousness we're in? And here's some of the states of consciousness he talks about. The lowest state is shame. Shame is probably the most debilitating level of consciousness that's where people commit suicide from. The next one's guilt, and it moves up the ladder as far as consciousness. When I say moves up the ladder, let me reframe that by saying that when we, most people understand this idea of fight or flight. So when we're in fight or flight, our minds automatically, because as we grew up over the eons of time, we were in positions where here's a bear or a tiger or something chasing us, and we need to shut everything else down in our system and run like heck, or whatever we have to do, fight like heck to take care of ourselves, known as a fight or flight. So what happens from a health standpoint, when we're in a fight or flight, those processes then that the body releases to help heal the body are no longer at work, because all that energy is going into protecting ourselves from whatever danger. But in our modern day times, it's so easy to be in some kind of a stressful fight or flight scenario. We don't think of it necessarily as fight or flight, but we might be worrying about the politics, about our next rent payment. I mean, there's so many ways that we are stressed and being in a fight or flight. And when we stay in those stressful places, then our bodies never are able to heal ourselves. So it really is a drag on our health, physical, mental health, both. How much it is, I'm not certain, but I know a lot of stress will affect us that way. So, going back to David Hawkins, so what he wanted to do was figure out, okay, how will I know when I'm above that level of flight or fight? And he arbitrarily took a scale of 0 to 1,000, and at 200 he cut the 200 off. Anything below that, we're in a fight or flight. Anything above that, we're not in the fight or flight. We're in some other categories. Like, there's a lot of different categories in the book, but I'm just talking about a few of them. So what he was able, and the way he was able to figure out what these levels of consciousness were, again using 200 as a cutoff point, he would take, like, say, anger. Anger is a state of consciousness. When I'm there, where's that fit on that scale of 1 to 1,000? And he used the method called kinesiology, which I always thought was kind of woo-woo until I took, one of the things I did was I took massage. I was a massage therapist. I took the training, and in that we did work around that, and I just thought it was a bunch of baloney. And the teacher literally showed that was a very valid process, the kinesiology. David used that process to figure out what level of consciousness these different states were in. Just one second about this. One day, Adam and I were, when we were in Denver, we were at the Dino, at the restaurant that Adam and his brothers owned. we were in there together. It was late at night, and and Adam couldn't find his keys. And I said, Adam, where's it at? I don't know. Is it downstairs? No, it's not downstairs. Was it in the back? I don't know. Anyway, he's probably spent 10 minutes looking all over the place for the keys. And I said, well, let's muscle test that. Okay. And I muscle tested him. And again, if you want to know how to muscle test, it's in the book, Power versus Force. I muscle tested him, and, I said, is it in the front? No. Back? No. Downstairs? And then what we were able to do is use his arm, and it was really strong. And his body says, yes, it's downstairs. And he said, well, I didn't think it was down there. I said it wasn't down there. He went downstairs, and there it was. So it's a valid process that David Hawkins used to denote these different levels. So one of the ways I use that is once you understand that, the more you work with it, the more you know when you're below 200 or you're above 200. You'll get to the point where you really know where you're at, where your conscience is at. And if I'm below 200, we're going to be in arguments, we're going to be in make-wrongs, I'm not going to feel good. There's just so many negatives that come from being below 200. Above 200 are places, like 500 calibrate. He calls it calibrates at 500. So there's different levels different kinds of things that calibrate above 200, different levels. Joy, love, there's a lot of things like that. So anyway, the main use I use with David Hawkins presently is checking myself out to see where I'm at. Of course, anytime I'm playing a game, guess where I'm at? I'm below 200. I'm in a make-wrong. I'm in a persecutor, rescuer, victim. And as a rescuer, I'm doing something I don't really want to do, then I'm definitely below 200. Of course, a persecutor, I'm making somebody wrong. As a victim, I'm not capable. I'm not taking responsibility. All these things fit together. So to stay physically and mentally healthy, I want to stay above 200. So that's one of the ways I use Hawkins' ideas.